Hey, 8th graders, we're on lesson 9, session 2, which starts on page 203 in your books. And today we are deriving or finding or figuring out y equals mx plus b. For yesterday's session 1, you just did the y equals mx part. So the new part today is putting in the plus b. So we're going to figure out what that plus b represents. Let's add some more scribbles on here to remind ourselves what the rest of this stuff means. So if you recall, m, can you remember what that stands for? That is the slope. Why they have m for slope? I don't know. Maybe I'll look it up someday, because right now I have no idea. And then the y and x are just any y and x coordinate on that line. So on our ordered pairs, remember it's x first, then y, because in the alphabet it goes x, y, z, not y, x, z. So the x and the y will make an ordered pair on that line. Okie dokie, now let's figure out what that plus b means. For our try question, it says Ramona has a new job as a chef. She earns the same amount per hour as she did at her old job. Did not get a raise, but she did get a $100 sign-on bonus, which you can see right there. That's at 100. So this line P represents her earnings at her first job, and line Q represents her earnings at her new job, including her $100 sign-in bonus. And notice the lines are parallel to each other. They will not cross because she's earning the same amount per hour. Okie dokie. So what does it want us to do? It wants us to first write an equation for line P, then figure out what does the slope in that equation represent, and then see if we can use that equation for line P to write an equation for line Q. And I'll give you a hint, it has something to do with that plus B. Okay, so what's the equation for line P? If you remember yesterday's lesson, the equation for a basic line that goes through the origin is going to be y equals mx. All we have to do is find out what is the slope and change the m to the slope. So we're just going to do slope. I'm going to put a note over here. If you haven't memorized this yet, remember it for the entire rest of your life. Slope is rise over run. So let's pick 2 points on this line. I'm always going to start at 0, 0 if I can because it's easy. It's zeros. And then the next point that hits a crosshair is going to be right there at 2. And then what does each of these lines represent? 20? Yeah, 20, 40, 60, 80. So each of these is 20. So the rise here is 20. And the run here is 1, 2, 2. 20 over 2. That is an improper fraction. That is super improper because you can't have the top number be bigger. You can't have a numerator bigger than the denominator. So all this really is a division problem. 20 divided by 2. What's 20 divided by 2? Y equals 20 divided by 2, which is 10x. So this is the equation for P. So this is line P. That's the equation for that one. Now we need to know, what does the slope represent? Well, it says that the y represents the amount she earned, and the x represents the time that she worked. So this is, what, $10 an hour? 10 per hour? Yeah, 10 an hour. The slope represents $10 per hour. That's her unit rate. Okay, now can we use the same formula to derive an equation for line Q? Let's see. Well, it's the same line, right? It's just moved up by how much? 100. So every point on that line is going to be the same as it would be for line P plus 100 because it's 100 higher. So for line P, we're going to do y equals, the slope is the same, 10. That slope is not changing. X plus, how much? 100. So this is line Q. Okie dokie. Alright, let's go down here and learn our vocabulary that goes with this in our model it. Let's see, we've got to model it and we've got to analyze it. Okay, so the model it. The model it is just showing that if you were to transform line P, if you were to transform it by translating it up 100 units, it would map onto line Q, which is just a fancy way of saying it's the same line, just higher up. The point where the lines hit the y-axis, remember this is the y-axis, that's why it's labeled y right here. The points where the lines hit the y-axis, that's called the y-intercept. So B is the y-intercept. Please do write that down nice and big so you remember it. M is for slope, B is for y-intercept. Why they chose these letters, I should probably Google, but I'm not gonna, because I'm gonna teach this instead. So the y-intercept for the bottom line, for line P, is 0. So that line formula, y equals 10m, you don't need to put plus 0. That doesn't mean anything. You just leave that off. You could put plus 0 if you... Oh, why did I put an m there? Get that out of there. You could put a plus 0 if you wanted to. It would not change the line formula. So if you wanted to leave the plus 0, that's acceptable. On line Q, it intercepts the line at 100. So you need to put the slope is 10. The y-intercept is 100. The line touches the y at 100. Okie dokie. For the analyze it, they're just showing you here, if you recall the formula way to find slope right here, instead of looking at the graph and literally counting the rise over the run, you could pick 2 points. They picked 0, 0 and 2, 20, and they derived the slope that way. You're welcome to do it that way. In fact, a lot of times you'll have to do it that way, so you probably should get used to it. And then the equation for line Q includes the hourly hourly earnings at the new job plus the sign-on bonus. So here's the sign-on bonus, the $100. Ooh, how did I get a square? What did I click on? Let's use the square. There we go. Rectangle. It's a rectangle. Okay. Now, look at the model. It describes how to map line P onto line Q. Okay, so we need to do our translation. And we're just going what? We're going up by 100, right? We're going up by 100. So, how to map it? You're going to translate. $100 units up. What does the y-intercept, so the B, of line Q represent? What did it represent? Do you recall? You're going to watch me write it slowly. The $100 sign-on bonus. I heard you yell it at the screen. Enthusiastically, no less. Okay. Number 2, now thinking about the analyze it, the second version down here where they use the slope formula. How are the equations for Ramona's earnings at the old job, old and new job alike, and how are they different? Okay, well, same slope. But what's different? The y-intercept is different. Different y-intercept. And I'd like you to put a reminder for yourself. The slope is m, y-intercept is b. The more you write it down, the more it'll help you to remember it. Number 3, a linear equation. Dun dun dun. There's the term that we wanted. Well, I guess another term we want now. I'm throwing a bunch of new terms at you, aren't I? Linear equation, an equation that represents a line. That's why it's a linear equation. So a linear equation describes a straight line. It can be written in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. You should probably underline those things because it will help you remember. And oh, look, they put it over here too. They put it so many places to help you remember. The slope goes here, the y-intercept goes there. That's the m, and that's the b. The equation for line Q is shown in slope-intercept form. Write the equation for line P in slope-intercept form. Circle the slope and underline the y-intercept. Circle the slope, underline the y-intercept. Okay, so we need slope-intercept form. So y equals slope plus y-intercept. Oops, that's for line Q. Line P intercepted at 0. So we're going to circle the slope and underline the y-intercept. It intercepted at 0. Let's go back and double check. Oh, look at that, right there. It intercepted the y at 0. Number 4, you can use the slope formula to also derive the slope-intercept form of a linear equation. Use the slope formula to find the slope between x, y, any point on a line, and 0b. So 0, this is at 0x, and b, remember that's the y-intercept, so wherever that line hits. That's the point at the y-intercept. Then solve for y. So it didn't give us any numbers here, so we're going to have to do this with, well, I guess it gave us 0, didn't it? It didn't give us many numbers here. So if you recall, m slope equals, we've got our first point and our second point. I guess we can use more colors here. Let's use more colors here, shall we? Let's make it a beautiful rainbow. So we've got our first point, and we've got our second point. And remember, y's go on top, x's go on the bottom. So x's go on the bottom. Y's, you put the second point first. But why does it have the first point first? Guess it doesn't matter if it's just deriving the difference anyway, so I'll do it the way they want me to do it, and that's going to be y's go on top, and we're finding the difference. That means subtract. Y's go on top, x's go on the bottom. X minus 0. Let's see. I can simplify this a little bit more. I can say m, we're still on m, y minus b. I can't do anything with that because those are not numbers. But x minus nothing is just x. We don't need the minus nothing. Now, in order to get this x out from under the y and b, I need to multiply both sides of my equation. So I need to rewrite my equation over here to keep it tidy because I don't want to mess you up. So here's my equation currently. M equals y minus b over, it was x minus 0, and I just simplified it to just x. I need to get that x out from under the m, and if you remember anything about solving equations, you know that to get rid of something, you need to do the opposite. So right here, I have a divided by x. So if I want to get rid of that x, then I need to do times. I guess I should use the big kid times. Times x. If I do something to one half of my equation, I have to do the same thing to the other half. So I'm going to do times x over here. So now if I were to rewrite my equation one last time, it will be, okay, not one last time. No, there's one more step after this. Second to last time, we've got xm or mx, it doesn't matter. I'll do mx since that's the way the slope-intercept form is. Equals, these canceled out, y minus b. I'm eating up all the space over here. Okay, it said solve for y, so remember that's my goal, is to get y by itself because it said solve for y. So I still need to get rid of the minus b. If I need to get rid of a minus b, I need to do the opposite, which is a plus b. If I do something to one side of my equation, I have to do the same thing to the other side. So now my y is by itself. I have my mx, and I just have to put on that plus b because I can't combine any of those things. They're all a bunch of letters. And yes, I have the x on the opposite side that I showed you before, but it's the same difference. I can just flip it around. Y equals mx plus b. There we go. We were able to derive slope-intercept form, and all it did was take more space than the question allows by kind of a lot. Okay, number 5 is for you to do. Go ahead and reflect. Think, what was the part of the lesson that made the most sense to you? Describe how one of the concepts we went over helped you to better understand how to solve the try-it problem. Go ahead, pause, and then unpause when you're done, and we'll do some practice together. Okay, let's do some practice together. This is page 206. We're going to do 3 practice problems. All of them have graphs already there. That's nice. Number 6, Liam's class is planting bamboo seedlings in the school garden. The line represents the average height of a bamboo plant after it has been planted. Write an equation in slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. Y equals slope times x plus y-intercept. Explain what the slope and the y-intercept mean in this situation. So we're going to keep our y. We're going to keep our x. We need to fill in the slope, and we need to fill in the y-intercept. So to fill in the y-intercept, all we need to do is see, where does the line intercept the y? Oh, look, right there. What does that represent? We've got 0 and we've got 20, so this is halfway. So that's 10. Our y-intercept is 10. And then slope is just rise over run. So let's stick with this point, and let's see, what's the next point that we can use? Here's 1. I'll use that point right there. So let's just literally do rise over run. We've got 10. We're starting at 10, so 10, 20, 30, 40. So it's going up by 40. And then the run, each of these spaces represents 2. So 40 over 2, which is just 40 divided by 2. 40 divided by 2 is 20. There you go. There's your line formula in slope-intercept form. Now it's asking, though, what is the slope and what do the y-intercept represent? Well, this is the height of the seedlings, and this is how many days. So the slope is going to be how many inches they grow every 2 days. So slope is how many inches they grow every 2 days. And then the y-intercept, they're starting at 10 inches. Y-intercept is how many inches tall the seedlings were. I'll clean that up for you. I know how you don't like my sloppy letters. There you go. How many inches tall the seedlings were. our first line formula. Let's see if we can do another one. Jennifer's weather app has a graph that shows the predicted outside temperature starting at 7 in the morning. Which statements are true about the graph? Select all that apply. And I'll give you a hint. There are 3 that apply. The line A, the line is the graph of a linear equation. Well, is it a line? Then yeah, because a linear equation, it's a line. That's why it says line right here. See? The slope of the line is 1 over 2. Let's see, what is the slope? We're starting at -3. Well, it doesn't matter where we're starting. But we're going to go up by, we're going to go from -3 to 1, so we're going to go up 1. And then we're going to go over, this is 1. So up 1 over 1. So no. Nope. Slope is 1. Because it's 1 over 1. 1 over 1 is 1. Alright, C. The temperature increases throughout the morning at a steady rate. So does this look steady? Looks pretty steady to me. Yep. D. The equation of the line is y equals -3x plus 2, or y is the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit and x is the time in hours after 7. Well, we already figured out that slope is 1. But this says slope is -3. Is that the same thing? Is 1 and -3 the same number? No, they are not. And I already told you there were 3, so spoiler alert. But here's the third one. The y-intercept means it was -3 degrees at 7 a.m. So this is the time. It says it starts at 7. We're at -3. Yep, at 7 a.m. we were at -3 degrees. True. Okay, and last one for today. Julio sells hand-painted skateboards. The graph shows the price of a skateboard is related to the amount of time Julio spends painting it. Very smart of him. Julio says the equation of the line is y equals 10x plus 15. Oh, he made a mistake. Oh no, Julio, we need to explain his mistake and write the equation correctly. So we're going to stick with the y equals slope times x plus y-intercept. Okay, so as a y-intercept, we've got 0 and 20, and it hits the y right in the middle of that. What's in the middle of 0 and 20? Is it 10? Is it 15 like Julio said? Because it's not. 10 is in the middle of 0 and 20. And then for our slope, we're going to start here, and then let's see, what's the next point we can easily use right there. So we're going up, each of these units is 10, so 10, 20, 30, 30, and then we're going over to the 2. We're going from 0 to 2, so we went over by 2. So slope is 30 divided by 2. 30 divided by 2 is 15. So what mistake did he make? We have a 10 here and a 15 there. He flipped it. Julio confused the slope and y-intercept. Poor dude. That's okay. He can be in my class. I'll teach him again. Okie dokie. That's it for me. You've got your green pages. Good luck.